That was not the game two you wanted from Tampa Bay. And after two losses at home to the Florida Panthers, is it time to press the panic button for the Bolts?
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Josh Sperber, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. And this was not the game that many fans purchased tickets to. The first shutout of the playoffs for Tampa Bay. The Lightning lost 2-0 against the Panthers. An early goal by Nate Schmidt, his third of the series. And, you can't take too much away from that goal. Really well worked. The TNT guys said that they expected Vasilevsky to save it, but as good as Andrei Vasilevsky is, that's not an easy shot for anyone to save. Schmidt just caught Vasi going the wrong way. And I think, you don't want to be guessing on those kind of shots, but on a one-timer, it's difficult not to guess. And it's just a split-second decision. Vasi went one way, the shot went the other. I don't blame that on Andrei Vasilevsky one bit. The one moment, though, I think the Lightning do wish they could get back came not too much longer before that. Braden Point ended up right in front of the net. Puck got dumped to him. He had to sweep it with his backhand around Sergei Bobrovsky, and it went wide to the net, missing an open left side of the net. And, that's a shot that you expect Point to make. It's harder on the backhand side, but he got the height. He just couldn't put it on goal. And, that really sunk the Lightning. I think that is the one moment in this game that I look at and think, if I could change one thing, that would be it. To get that shot just a couple inches to the right into the open left side of the net would have tied the game and really swung momentum in that first period, plain and simple. And that's a shot that you expect Braden Point to make 9 times out of 10. This was just the 1 time out of 10 that it didn't go in. And I still don't even think that it's about, lucky bounces, lucky rolls, anything like that. The Panthers defended really well. So did the Lightning. Just Florida got one of their chances and the Lightning didn't. John Cooper is not shy. If the team doesn't do something up to par, up to the level that he expects of his guys, he'll say something about it. He's not a coach who's going to walk on eggshells and not admit if his team didn't play that well. This was not one of those games. He said that the Lightning had enough chances to win this game, and I agree. I don't think it was about the amount of chances. I think part of it, though, might have been about who was taking those chances, because the Tampa Bay Lightning finished with 19 shots on goal. 4 of them came from Ryan McDonagh. 4 of them came from Erik Cernak. And I'm going to be the last guy to badmouth either of those players. I don't want to say anything bad about them, because Cernak and McDonagh are both great hockey players, absolutely key to what the Tampa Bay Lightning do. But their strength is on the defensive side. Almost half of the Lightning shots came from Cernak and McDonagh, who had a combined 7 goals in the regular season. And again, Mac and Cernak, both great players, but those aren't the guys I want taking the majority of my offensive chances. No one else had 4 shots on net. Point had 3, Hagel had 2, Kucherov had 1, and McDonagh and Cernak had 4 each. Sometimes the puck just fell to them. They had an open shot. Great. It's not like I'm saying they shouldn't be getting shots. Just you want to create more chances for your heavy hitters, for your Nikita Kucherov, for Brandon Hagel, for Braden Point, for Jake Gensel, who didn't even have a shot on net. And part of that has to do with Florida's defense. I think the Panthers are certainly outperforming my expectations from them on the defensive side. Obviously, Nate Schmidt has been a key player on both sides of the ice to what Florida has done, and he has scored goals in both games and helped on the defensive side of things. But Panthers also blocked 20 of the Lightning shots, while the Lightning blocked 6. And Lightning, I think, focused on playing a more physical game. I definitely like that. They had 10 more hits than the Panthers did. And I think for the first time this season, the Lightning finished a game with more hits than the Florida Panthers in a head-to-head matchup. That's not the Lightning's game, and I think they were adjusting to the Panthers' style of play, just a physical kind of grind-you-out game. And while I think that that's important, I said it after the first game that the Lightning need to be a little bit more physical because I think they got out-muscled in game number 1. In game 2, the Lightning matched the physicality of the Panthers, and they were just unlucky on a couple of their chances. So I think that the Lightning don't need to stray too far from what they did in game 2. I think overall they played a game that was good enough to win a tight game. It was just a matter of, 1 or 2 more chances going in for Florida, 1 or 2 more bounces going Florida's way rather than the Lightning. And hopefully that changes because these are 2 games of playoff hockey where we have still not seen close to the best, the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is the best offensive team in hockey, the Bolts are. They led the league in goals per game in the regular season. I believe they outscored just about everyone else in the NHL over the course of the season as well. But another issue is that Andrei Vasilevskiy faced more shots than almost any other goalie in the NHL. Top 5 in shots faced for Vasilevskiy. And he still put up incredible numbers. But at some point, if you're getting peppered with shots and you're continually getting outshot by the other team, 1 or more bad bounce for you here, 1 or you bad break for you there, 1 or more, lucky play for the other team is going to do enough to swing the tide in a close game like this, and that's what happened. It's not like the Lightning were hurting for shots. We're hurting for chances on net. They had chances, and I think they had enough chances to win the game, even aside from that Braden Point dunk in the net, like in close to the net. It wasn't a bad game for Tampa, just the Panthers played a little bit better. And it's not like the Panthers played such an incredible game, aside from the defense and, of course, Bobrovsky in net. But, I think every single player in the post-game press conferences were talking about just running into a hot goalie. And it kind of reminds me of the stretch that the Lightning were on in January, like December to January, where it just seemed like every goaltender that they were playing was giving them their best game. And, this is the NHL. This is the most competitive level of hockey on the planet. And when you see, as a defensive player with a competitive edge that can get you to becoming a professional athlete, you need to have that competitive edge where, all right, I got to step my game up against these guys because I know they're going to light the lamp, time and time again if I don't. And that's the edge that the Panthers played with. They know this Lightning team, and the Lightning know the Panthers. Just it was the Panthers getting the better of the Lightning, and really that 1 more goal, empty net goal, came in the last 10 seconds. This was a 1-goal game. I think even Panthers fans will tell you that this is a 1-goal game. Not a game that was convincing that, all right, this is the better team on the ice. The Panthers were the better team on the ice. I hate to admit it, but it's true. But it's not like they were blowing the Lightning out of the water. This was a very evenly played game that, frankly, could have gone either way. It just was another one that went the Panthers' way. Game 1, the Panthers just outplayed the Lightning and checked them out of the rink. In game 2, the Lightning matched that physicality, but they just didn't get the chances that go in. And you hope that Bobrovsky cools off a little bit, but I think the Lightning need to do a better job of freeing up their shooters, freeing up their top line attackers, and their offensive players and not having chances fall to Ryan McDonough, Eric Chernak, and the defensive guys. You want to see more from Kucherov. You want to see Gensel get more aggressive all around, because it is crunch time. The Lightning cannot afford to lose another game in this series, plain and simple. And this is a better Lightning team than the team that lost to Florida last season. But the Lightning just need to lock in and step up, or else the Panthers are going to win this going away. And I don't think anyone here wants to see that. But the next question that I'm going to ask is an important one. And I'm sure it's one that everyone who was watching that game as a Lightning fan last night, myself included, were thinking, is it time to press the panic button for the Tampa Bay Lightning? I'm going to tell you why it still is not. Do you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With Wi-Fi 6, 6E, and auto low latency mode, advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Play high-quality Xbox game at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. I know I said that the Lightning needed to win this game to win the series, and in some ways, I think you can definitely argue that that's true. But the Tampa Bay Lightning have been in this situation before. Though series-wise, it hasn't always worked out. The Lightning have trailed 8 different series in the postseason by 2 games after losing the first 2, and they have won just 2 of those series. But this is certainly a series that can come back in, and frankly, I think that the Lightning have been kind of a late-blooming team all season. You know, I think they played their best hockey really in February and March of this year, and in some games of April. A little bit more inconsistent in the month of April, but I think for the most part, the Lightning's best hockey was played in 2025 rather than 2024, and closer to the second half of the season. So I don't think it's time to panic, because I still think this is a series that, if a lot of things go right for Tampa Bay, the Lightning can still win. Again, you give me Bobrovsky versus Vasilevsky, I'm taking Vasilevsky every single time without fail. But the Lightning, I think, just need to do a little bit more to play their game rather than kind of slip into the pace of the Florida Panthers like they really did in this game. And again, I think the physicality aspect was good. You know, I liked how the Lightning really started finishing more of their checks and really went after the Panthers a lot more aggressively. But, you know, in a physical, grinded out kind of game, the Panthers, I think, have that advantage. That's just the style of play that they have. And with the extra physicality, that element of playoff hockey just doesn't suit the Lightning as much. I think they're definitely more of a fast skate team that can mix it up, but they, I think, need to just control more of the possession. And you're going to have a completely healthy Anthony Cirelli. I know he played in the game, but he seem to be limited a little bit. I mean, you look at the rest of that second line for Tampa. Cirelli played significantly less than all of them, 15 minutes for the Bolts, but he was excellent on faceoffs, winning 11 of 17. And I think you're going to see a rejuvenated Anthony Cirelli in that next game. And I don't think it was the 12-on-6, either. That switch going from 11-7 like they've been for the last little while to the 12-6, I don't think that had too much of an effect. But I think that this is still a Lightning team that can come back. I mean, you look at those past series, the Lightning have a winning record in road game 3s and road game 4s. 13-7 in game 3, 14-6 on the road in game 4 for a combined 27-13, more than double the amount of wins to losses in that series. And I think that if the Lightning can win, ideally, both of these games, you win both of these games, obviously, it's an even series once again. That's the idea. The idea for the Lightning, obviously, you want to pile up wins as much as you can. But I don't think you can really start to panic until you go down by 3 games in a playoff series. Because after these 2 even, it's still a winnable set for sure. But one thing I think you can say about this game is that the Lightning just played better quality hockey. I mean, they put themselves in a position to win this game. I don't know if you can say that about game number 1. I think the Lightning just kind of came out flat and the Panthers took advantage and ran all over them. That didn't happen again. The Lightning stepped up. They learned from their mistakes. They increased their physicality, and I think they did some of the things a lot better in game 2 that they didn't do well in game 1. But John Cooper said it best during the post-game press conference. A lot of the times, some of those shots will go in. Most of the time, some of these chances are going to fall in. They just didn't tonight or last night. But you get the point. The point is, I mean, pucks are bound to start dropping in for Tampa Bay. It just needs to happen quicker. And again, this is a situation the Lightning have been in before. We talked about that month of January, really starting in December, carrying into January, where there was a run of, 5-10 games, something like that, at least, that they were just getting the best out of every single goaltender game after game. And they're getting the best out of Bobrovsky, which is exactly what you expect in the postseason. But, the Lightning just have to keep doing what they're doing. I think you need to get more pucks on the sticks of the right guys, of the dangerous goal scorers, of the lethal offensive players, instead of settling for shots from up top on defense. And again, part of that has to do with the Panthers. They played a great defensive scheme, and they really flex their familiarity with this Tampa Bay Lightning team. They know how the Lightning want to run their offense, and they try to counteract that with their defense and by throwing guys in the middle of the ice. And it's something that you notice when the Lightning are on offense versus when the Panthers are on offense. When the Panthers are on offense, there's just a lot more guys in the middle of the ice. They look for those goalie screens. They look for the chances to just kind of pick up loose pucks and throw them in. The Lightning are just so fast that they've got guys that can just fly in from anywhere, grab those loose pucks and put them in the goal in the blink of an eye. And that didn't really happen. Again, you want that point shot back. In an alternate universe, Braden Point scored that dunk on Bobrovsky, and maybe the Lightning came back and won this game. But, coulda, woulda, shouldas aren't going to get you very far. But I think that the Lightning need to just keep doing some of the thing. In some ways, I think they need to keep doing what they were doing in the second game. The increased physicality, matching the strong checks from Florida, that was good. I want to see Kucherov take more shots. I want to see Gensel take more shots. I want to see that top line really start to take control for the Tampa Bay Lightning, because they need a kind of hero game, I think, in game 3. Like, I am hoping that we see one of those classic Kucherov 4 or 5 point games where he has a goal and 4 assists, or a hat trick and 2 assists, or whatever it is. But you want to see that kind of game for the Tampa Bay Lightning. You want to see someone take over. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next segment, because we've got another game coming up. Saturday afternoon in Sunrise, Game 3, Panthers versus Lightning. And which Lightning player needs to and can step up to get the Lightnings back on track? The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it is unlike anything else. The intensity, the speed, the energy in the building, it's next level. And thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer, and with last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. Here's what I love about Game Time. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute deals for sports, comedy, theater, anything that you're looking for. And the all-in pricing shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. The app even shows you panoramic seat views, so you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. And with Game Time ticket coverage, you know you're protected, whether it's cancellation protection, job loss assurance, or their 24-hour return guarantee. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, use the code LOCKEDONNHL, that's LOCKEDONNHL, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So to preface this next segment, I want to talk about a player that can provide a spark. I don't want to say that there are guys that haven't been trying to do that. Connor Geekie really impressed me in that second game. I mean, he looked like a seasoned vet out there doing everything that he could to create chances. And especially in the early goings, there were a couple of shots that the Lightning had that were set up by Connor Geekie. And some of their best chances, Geeks helped create. And you know, you love seeing those rookies mixing it up and getting in there in the postseason. But now especially now, this is the time where the veterans need to step up and kind of take over the game, because the Lightning have a host of guys that have done this before. Most of their team is still intact from those back-to-back titles not so long ago. And it's those guys that I'm looking at to really just try and take over this next game. I think, obviously, Nikita Kucherov is going to be one of them. The Panthers have done a really good job of kind of taking him out of the series so far. And when you look at the postseason, he had that one assist on the power play in game number 1. And at that point, you know, the results seemed a little bit closer, but he was just so quiet. You know, he had that one-time shot on the power play in the second game, and that was really it. So the Panthers did a good job of taking him out of the game. Now the Lightning need to do something to counter that. I mean, I think it was one of the big reasons in last year's postseason series the Panthers won, is that they minimized the effect of Nikita Kucherov. And Kucherov is the best player on the planet. I don't think right now there's a hockey player I'd rather have on my team than Nikita Kucherov. He won the Art Ross Trophy for the second straight season. He 100% gets my vote for the Hart Trophy. I don't think that there is another player more worthy of the Hart Trophy in the NHL than Kucherov this season. But plain and simple, you know, I want to see him get a goal early on against the Panthers in Game 3. And that's something I think the Lightning need to do in that third game, is get out to that fast start and just get ahead early. Because when the Lightning start fast, when the Lightning can get those early goals, can fire a bunch of shots on net in the first 5 minutes, they're typically better and play a more complete game of hockey. And I think that's got to start with Nikita Kucherov. You know, if your star has been mostly taken out of the series, your star is the guy who you want to see more from. So I'd like to see a big game from Kuch in Game 3 in Sunrise. Certainly something that he has done before. Brandon Hagel is also someone that I think has been very quiet in the postseason for Tampa Bay. And, coming off of his best season ever, he set career highs across the board in 82 games, which he played for the second year in a row. His second ever 30-goal season, his first ever 90-point season, his first ever 50-plus assist season, and his most average time on ice as well, most game-winning goals in the season. I mean, we can keep going on Brandon Hagel. He was the breakout star of the regular season for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He established himself as one of the best forwards, not just in Tampa Bay, but in the entire NHL. And he has a -4. That's it in the postseason. 2 games, -2 in both of them. And you don't want to see that from your star player, from one of the guys who is most responsible for the Lightning getting in this position. So I'd like to see him and Kucherov are 2 guys that I really want to see take control, because they're both not just, other than the fact that they're both exceptionally talented players, they're both leaders on this team. When the Lightning were down an alternate captain early in the year, Brandon Hagel wore the A on his shirt. He's the next man up in terms of Lightning leadership. And, it has been very clear all season that he's a guy that some of the younger players look up to, and a lot of his teammates really respect and really trust in key spots. But Hagel has been largely a non-factor on the offensive side for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And, of course, defensively, he's doing what he does. He hounds the Florida Panthers and really puts pressure on their strong group of forwards, but you just need to see more on offense from him. And Jake Gensel is someone who played really well. He might have been the best player on the ice in game number 1, certainly for the Lightning. But another guy who was kind of taken out of the game on the offensive side in game number 2. And the Lightning, I think, need to do something to just kind of move the Panthers around a little bit more. They have some really fast skaters, and if they just keep the Panthers moving around and just their quick passing can just try and slice seams in that Panthers defense, that's how they're going to win this next game. They just need to play the quick strike, fast Lightning offense and have one of those kind of games that just sneaks up on you and you just snap your fingers and bam, the Lightning are up by 4. But you got to have those top line guys step up for Tampa Bay. And Nick Paul is someone else that I'd like to see get more involved as well. I'm looking at only offensive players right now for Tampa, partly because it's been the offense that I think for the most part has been lacking. I'm not going to say that it was a good defensive game for Tampa Bay in game 1, but defensively in game 2, the Lightning did everything that they could to put themselves in a position in that game. Again, the empty net goal was scored inside the last 10 seconds. This was a 1-goal game. I think even Panthers fans will tell you that. So it's the offense that needs to step up. And Nick Paul, I think, is a player on offense who, when you look at the forwards, I think he's the most physically imposing guy. And I think he needs to put a bigger stamp on the game, because he's someone else that, again, he's playing fewer minutes than a lot of other Lightning players, but he's someone that I think really needs to make his presence felt a lot more. And I think that can be true of a lot of the Lightning's forwards. I think Connor Geekie has done a really good job of that. Mitchell Chaffee still coming off of that injury. He's someone who has done a good job of mixing in a whole lot of checks and finished his checks really well. But it just hasn't been enough so far for Tampa Bay. So really it's that first line that I'm looking at to become more involved and take a more active role when it comes to scoring and shooting. And I think eventually these pucks are just going to start falling in. And that's what you got to believe in if you're a Lightning fan. And when you look at this Lightning offense, you have to believe it just because there's so much talent there. But I think really that first line of forwards being the best line in hockey, helping lead the best offensive team in hockey, I think especially those guys are the ones that really need to lock in and put up some goals for Tampa, because the rest of the offense will really kind of follow their lead. But Brandon Hagel, Nikita Kucherov, Jake Gensel, 3 players I'm going to keep my eye on heading into game 3 on Saturday in Sunrise. And that is going to do it for the week. Hopefully, we'll have a Lightning win to talk about when we return to you on Monday. But until then, I'm Josh Sperber, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. Now for your second listen, make sure to check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And on YouTube, wherever you listen to today's podcast. Thank you for tuning in once again. Please give us a like, a follow, subscribe. We do the show for you guys, the fans, so we really appreciate that you guys support us as well. So thank you again for tuning in. Go Bolts and enjoy your weekend.